Welcome to another episode of my live stream, My Turn to the Trinity. And I'm real happy to have with us our brother, our friend Issa. He's got a Muslim name, but but he's Jewish. So we got a very interesting situation here. We got a Palestinian ex-Muslim Christian and a partially Jewish, partially Sufi. Anyway, welcome, Brother Issa. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you, Brother Steve. I appreciate it. I'm honored to be.
You know what, Issa? You know what? I'm going to change my internet just because it's you know what, my internet here is really really bad, and I actually have a better. Let me see if I can get the better. I'm going to see if I get onto the better internet before we go on, just because I can hear already there's problems here. Um, it'll just take me a minute to do it. Sorry about this, man. This is a pain, man. Could you say something?
Yes.
Okay. I can hear you, but you know what? I'm doing this on a hotspot, and it sounds a little bit bad, and I'm wondering if I go onto the Wi-Fi if it'll be better, because I do have Wi-Fi also. And let me see. Let's go ahead and try a little bit and see how it goes. But then if it doesn't work, I'll go to the Wi-Fi. So how are you doing, Issa?
I'm doing great. You could say in Hebrew, Baruch Hashem, Alhamdulillah. They say in Arabic. I'm doing very good. Thank you for asking.
Mm-hmm. You get the Baruch Hashem and the Alhamdulillah all. That's great, man. You know what? I think I'm going to need to go to the other one.
Hope everyone's doing all right today.
Hello? Is that any better?
It's not cutting out as much.
Okay, yeah, this is a little bit better. So cool. All right. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. It's over there on the other side of Isa. Now you have a Arabic name, and yet you are Jewish. Can you explain that to us?
Sure. So I come from a mixed background. So my mother is American Jewish. That's her family background. She was actually kind of like a hippie in the 60s, and she's had her own spiritual journey. My father is from South Asia and is partially Egyptian, and he is from like an Islamic background, and but primarily, a mystical kind of understanding. He was a spiritual kind of figure, and but he was very kind of interfaith oriented, and he had a phrase that he would say, said the most important thing is that you need to communicate with God. It doesn't matter what language it's in, but you need to talk with the divine. So that's what his belief was. So I kind of come from that situation. Jewish practices have been very, very important for me in my life. Um, it's something that I have kind of connected to. My family is not very religious. They're more. My mom's family is particularly on the edge of agnostic atheism, but I kind of, for my own spiritual journey, have come to that. I do those practices in my life, and yeah, my family is that, and yeah, so that's kind of I guess, a rough overview. I can, if you want me to go deeper into anything, we can do that as well.
Okay. Well, that kind of gives us an overview, at least a little bit of a brief understanding about you, and for people who are interested, especially with the name Isa, which I'm sure is the name of Jesus in the Quran, and so it's a very significant name. It's also my uncle's name, by the way. So my in Muslim families, quite often you'll have when they have multiple sons, quite often they'll name them, like you'll have Muhammad, Mahmud, and Ahmed. Because those are all versions of Muhammad, and then you'll also have, like in my father's situation, uh, one of my great uncles did that too. He has Muhammad, Ahmed, Mahmud, but the other one, and then also Muhsin also. But with my father's situation, it was Musa, Isa, Yusuf. So so Moses, Jesus, and Joseph. So anyway, so that's also a very common situation that happens in Palestinian families. I don't know, if other Arab families do that. And so, well, I kind of wanted, like to talk to you, as I'm very interested in the biblical prophecies about Jesus, and I believe that the biblical prophecies about Jesus are scientific proof that Jesus Christ is the Messiah, and that he is the Son of God, who that is awaited. And I mean scientifically, because when you look at the fact that a prophecy was written 1,000 years before he was born, and then it came to fulfillment and in his life. And I know that some things are coincidental, like you could say, well, it says that for instance, that he rode on a donkey. Well, okay, lots of people rode on donkeys. But when it says he rode on a donkey into Jerusalem and is declared the king of Israel there, and that's exactly what happened with Jesus. And it says, rejoice, daughter of Zion, behold, your king comes to you riding upon a donkey, lowly and humble. And it doesn't just say donkey, it says a donkey in the foal, so that's like the child. Well, both of those were present when Jesus rode into Jerusalem. And so, and he was declared to be the king at that time, in uh, Zechariah, the prophet Zechariah, was written to about 600, between 600 and 700 years before Jesus was born. And it was very specific that was about the Messiah, and Jesus fulfilled that prophecy, to where when you look at it like that, and it's that specific, then you have to stand back and say, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And so, have you looked at those types of things?
Yeah, I've seen some of the prophecies. So religion is sort of my thing. So I have done research into that. Like, you have in the prophet Isaiah, they talk about what was it? It was about the Nazarite. There are the being born from um what was it? An Alma from a
Uh-huh.
young woman. Yeah, so I've read some of that. I've engaged those things.
Okay. Here's that.
Oh, there
Here's
it
that.
is. It's funny. It's right there. The thing I was talking about is right on the top.
Well, that was I was going to bring that one on. That was my first. So let's look at that. This is a very interesting. This is an amazing prophecy. It says, "Therefore, the Lord Himself will give you a sign: a virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel." This is in Isaiah, about 700 years before Jesus was born. And then here's the fulfillment of it. And the angel said, "The Holy Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One will be born of you, will be called the Son of God." This is Gabriel talking to Mary. And so now, when you see something like this, what does that? Do you believe that Jesus fulfilled that prophecy?
Well, I think there are multiple answers that we can give to this. So I guess one important thing is, how do we view the scripture? Is the scripture literal, or is it a spiritual narrative? Um, it's hard to say. I don't know exactly what the prophet Isaiah is saying here, but I can understand why. I could see how Christians can view this as a fulfilled prophecy. That's an answer I can give, like in a saving answer that I can give to this question.
Mhm. Well, do you believe that? Welcome, Jamal Khan. Well, when it says that, I mean, now you knew about this prophecy even before we spoke about it, to where you probably have looked into this before. And what have you seen in your studies about this?
Well, there's usually with all these prophecies, there's a counter argument. There is a Jewish counter argument. So people will say the word that is used in Hebrew, I believe, is alma, and they say, well, that just means young woman. It doesn't mean virgin. Bethulah would be the word that could mean virgin. So there's usually a counter argument for most of these prophecies. Um, but again, I'm not refuting it. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that could be one thing that could be a way that someone would view it. I have seen a lot of these prophecies before, and
Oh, okay. So now, if it was just a young woman, how would that be a sign?
well, I mean, if I were to create the story, it could be something like, maybe it's a young woman that was not what's the word, has not gone through puberty. It could be something like that. Maybe it might be some kind of miracle like that. Um, Maybe it might be a period of time where women aren't able to bear children, so we're just using we're using the where there could be that could be it could be a futuristic thing where maybe nobody can have children and this woman can. So I don't know. I mean, there's ways that we could look at this, and that prophecy could be different. That's all I'm saying.
And okay, is it possible that it does mean what we say it means?
Sure, I'm not disagreeing. That's what I said. I never said I'm disagreeing with it. I'm just saying there could be other perceptions. I'm not disagreeing that that is one of the perceptions that could exist.
Mhm. But you don't believe that though, huh?
Well, I would say I don't know that. I don't have knowledge on that. I don't have the gnosis to make that claim one way or another. I mean, when you're dealing with these like prophets, they're having dealing with a very high spiritual caliber. I can't say that I know what they mean by their prophecy. I don't know if it's a metaphor. I wasn't there in that context. Like, there's a lot of complexity that I think could be introduced in this situation. But I can say that it could definitely be a valid interpretation. I wouldn't deny it. I wouldn't say the Christian interpretation is wrong. I wouldn't be so arrogant to take that position.
Okay, to say that the arrogant to take what position?
Take the position of saying that this isn't a prophecy about the big JC.
Okay. And all right. Well, of course, we as Christians do believe that this is a fulfillment of the prophet, and that Gabriel, when he came to Mary, he said that that was, you know, that this is a prophecy about that. So, and Matthew also said that Matthew also said uh, that it was a fulfillment of that specific prophecy, and okay, let's look at another prophecy and let's talk about this one. This is, of course, from Micah. I'm sure you've seen this. This is a very popular every Christmas. We talk about it. And this is in Micah chapter 5, verse 2. It says, "But you, O Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out of you will come one for me, one who will be the ruler over Israel, whose origins are of old from ancient time." And and then we have here that that the math again. This is Matthew who says, "When he had called together the people's chief priests and the teachers of the law, he asked them where the Messiah was to be born. In Bethlehem of Judea, they replied, for this is what the prophet has written." And they quote this right here. So now here it's saying where he was to be born. And, especially in that both Matthew and Luke say that he was born in Bethlehem. Uh, what do you think about that?
Well, what it states is that the person will be a ruler. Just like looking at over all the thematic things. Says the person's from the clans of Judah.
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting point because if we look at the genealogy of the big JC, Master JC, we see that there's two different genealogies. One is from his mother's lineage. And his mother's lineage is actually not from the clan of Judah, but from Levi and Aaron. He's from the priestly lineage. He's from the Kohanim, so he's a descendant of the priests.
Where does it say that?
Well, when you see the lineage, it shows that it's because there's 12 tribes of Israel.
Right.
So the tribe of Israel that he comes from isn't the Judah tribe; it's the tribe of I believe it's Levi, but he's from the priestly ancestry. So that's an interesting thing.
Okay, but the thing is that both the Matthew and the Luke genealogies come through David. One of them goes through Solomon, one goes through Nathan. This is the Matthew and the Luke. Now Matthew has 46 generations because it's just from Abraham to Jesus, whereas the Luke genealogy goes 77 generations because it goes all the way back to Adam. But both of them come through David. And then at David, they diverge because at David, the Matthew genealogy goes through Solomon, whereas in Luke, the genealogy goes through Nathan, to where they both come through David. And if they come through David, that means they come through Judah, because David was from the tribe of Judah. Neither of them have Mary being from the tribe of Levi. That is actually closer to what the Quran says when it calls her the sister of Aaron. But the biblical the two genealogies are neither of them are from the tribe of Levi. They're both through the tribe of Judah. Would you like me to show it to you?
Yeah, let's review that because I remember, I don't have the paper, I don't have the information in front of me, but I do remember there's two distinct genealogies. One comes from his mother, and the other one comes from Joseph. So I thought the Davidic line came from Joseph. There is a Davidic line. I do agree with that. I just thought that the Davidic line came from Joseph. not from Mary. I think Mary's. You know what? I haven't read it in a very,
No,
very
no,
long time. So I'm just saying that's what I recall when I did read it. So I'm not sure. I can't say I'm 100% sure on that.
okay. Well, let's look at it. You know, we don't have to look at the whole thing, but we can look at the we can just look at the relevant part. You know, and specifically when you're talking about when you're talking about the tribe of Levi. Okay, stop screen. When you talk about the tribe of Levi as compared to the tribe of Judah, and so let's just look at that real quickly. Now I'm going to Wikipedia just because it's just an easy way to easy way, because they do have this in a simple way here. And okay, here's uh, Luke's genealogy. Okay. Okay. You know what? I just wanted. You know what? I'd rather actually, if we could, just go to the. I wish they would just say Luke 4 or Luke 6 or whatever. You know, they go through all of this. Okay. Okay. Here's the Luke. Okay. Here's the Luke genealogy. This is a simple one. Can you see this? Is this okay? This is that. Okay. Yeah. Here's the Luke genealogy. And let's make it a little bit bigger so you could see it. Okay. Um, Here it says that, okay, Adam, it comes all the way to Adam, and then all the way down to Abraham, and then Isaac, Jacob, and it doesn't go, it goes, this is the Luke to Judah. Okay. And from Judah, it goes all the way to David, and David to Nathan, and then to Joseph. Okay.
Right. I remember there's two distinct
Right.
lineages that are given. One is through Joseph and one is through. See, that's the thing. I don't remember everything, and I haven't read this in maybe 10 years. So, you know,
Okay.
it's not. It won't be shocking that some of my memory is a little bit off on this,
Okay.
but I know
Well,
there's one distinct lineage. I didn't deny that there's a lineage through Judah, but that's through Joseph. What I remember, but I don't remember Mary's lineage. I don't know if that was the case
well,
that her lineage is.
here's
Um,
the here's the other one. This is the Matthew. This is the Matthew lineage. And again, it starts at Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Judah.
Right, but it still goes through Joseph. That's the thing, because there's one lineage that comes through Joseph and one that comes through Mary, from what I
Well,
recall.
well,
But
these are the two. One's in Matthew, one's in Luke, and both of them come through Judah. But the thing is this Luke one, this Matthew one, is not the same as the Luke one. You see, the difference begins here. See, here's David, and instead of going through Nathan, it goes through Solomon.
there isn't a matrilineage. No, this is the patrilineage, but there isn't a matrilineage because I recall that there was one that was a patrilineage and a matrilineage, but I don't know if it's not here. It's not then.
Here, these are the two. There's two of them. One's in
Oh,
Matthew.
no, I hear you, but they're both patrilineages. Do you get what I'm saying? These are
Yeah.
from father instead of through his mother. That's the
Okay.
point that I'm saying.
Okay.
These are
No.
both patrilineage genealogies, not a matrilineage genealogy.
Oh, I see what you're saying, because it says Joseph here, that
Yeah,
it's his maternal rather than his paternal.
right.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay, this is where I think it. This is where I think it. The that the issue was that the issue was that this one right here is actually the one of Mary. Through that this was the one of Mary, but it says Joseph because it's talking about the fathers and it's going through the fathers rather than talking about the mothers. But that this one was the Mary one, whereas the other one was the Joseph one. but that because they're naming the fathers rather than the mothers. Yeah, here it doesn't name any mothers in Luke, and
Mm.
so that would be why it says Joseph rather than Mary. And so anyway, but they are both go through Judah, and but I understand what you're saying too. So
It's fine. It's fine. It's just you have to realize, like, I don't have all the information in front of me right now. I'm just recalling from my memory. So,
right,
and
right,
I haven't read like gone through this in like 10 years, so maybe
okay,
even longer. So, but
okay, no,
I have read all of it. It's just been it's it's a little murky.
yeah. Well, that's why I want to talk about it. This
Sure,
is
that's fine.
and this is something that I believe that the Old Testament prophecies are like here that he is born in Bethlehem. We've had two prophecies. One that he would be born of a virgin, and I know there's in the Hebrew you could say that's a young woman. My contention with that is if that was the case, well then how is it a sign? What's a sign about a woman having a baby? That's
The only difficulty I would have with that is it would still be an inference. Like we wouldn't know either way on that situation. It could be 100 other things. I'm not dismissing that this is a possibility. I'm just saying it could be something else that we maybe don't understand at this moment in time and don't have the proper context for. So I'm just allowing that to say that could be an alternative possibility.
mhm. Okay. Well, then here it says that he was be born in Bethlehem, and that I believe. I'll just tell you what
Sure.
when some of the interpretations of when it says his origins are from of old. That when it says that there are some version where it actually says he's from eternity, meaning that he will have the dual nature, that he is born as a human being, but at the same time his origin from of old is that he is divine. From like the Ancient of Days is one ways that they talk about God in the book of Daniel. And so that this points to both his human and his divine nature. So anyway, that's how I believe in it. And let's look at a couple of other prophecies about him. Um,
Do you mind if I ask one question about the second one? I was just exploring that because, again, it's
uh-huh.
interesting, the matrilineal versus patrilineal and all of that. And it's
Oh,
fine. I will accept Judah lineage. I already knew that there was one side anyway, so it wouldn't matter anyway about that. That wasn't my major contention with that. My question would be, there were multiple things. And one said, could you put that up again?
yeah, the lineages.
No, not the lineages, about the passage for Micah.
Oh, the passage from Micah. Okay, okay, sure. Okay, right here. Here's the Micah passage. Is it on there? Oh, sorry, got to put it
It
up.
hasn't been shared.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Let me
that's
just.
the lineage.
Yeah, yeah. Let me go ahead and get that. Okay, okay. Here.
Great. Um, so it says, "But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are small among the clans of Judah, out you will come for me to be a ruler over Israel, whose origins from old, from ancient times." So what this could be saying is that it's a king. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Messiah, according to this. I don't have the Hebrew in front of me, but I mean that could be what it's saying too. I'm not saying it's wrong. Again, every single thing here, I'm not saying these prophecies are wrong. I'm not disagreeing with them. I'm not saying your interpretation's incorrect, your faith is incorrect. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying maybe there's another explanation too. That's all I'm saying. You
Yeah.
know, for since we're here to discuss, we're just saying there could be other possibilities. If you
Okay.
think that's the most plausible one, I'm not denying that though.
Okay. Well, let me show you something else. That there's something else. Uh, if we could just stay in Micah for a second, because this particular prophecy is very interesting. This is Micah. This is again 700 years before Jesus was born, and there's a uh, let me just show you the actual prophecy in the Bible about Okay, it says here, marshal your troops now, city of troops. The siege is laid against us. They will strike Israel's ruler on the cheek with the rod. And there's interesting, it's saying that they will strike Israel's ruler with a rod on the cheek. Do you know that it says that exactly about Jesus? When they were mocking him, when they took him and the Romans, and it says it doesn't say who it is, that they took a stick, they literally took a stick and they hit him on the face, on the head. It says on the head with a stick over and over again. And so that this right here, they will strike Israel's ruler on the cheek with the rod. And then it goes into, but you, O Bethlehem, though you are small among the clans of Israel, out of you will come one whose origins are of old. And so, that there's more than one prophecy here. There's one about his, the beating that he took when he was beaten, and he was, when they before they killed him, before they crucified him, it literally says that they put a crown of thorns on his head, and they took and with their sticks they hit him on the face, they hit him on the head over and over again, to where they will strike Israel's ruler on the cheek with the rod. And so there's more than one prophecy there, but I see three clear prophecies here. Number one, that he would be beaten on his face, and then that he would be born in Bethlehem. And number three, that, well, actually, there's another one, which is that he'd be the ruler of Israel, and he was called the King of the Jews. And then that he is eternal, from eternal. In the Arabic, it even says, when they translate it in Arabic, it's min al-azal, from eternity past. Min al-azal, meaning from eternity, meaning that he is divine, that he's from eternity. So, but I know that the Arabic translation is, it's not more authoritative than the English, But so anyway, that's one prophecy, about. I see three prophecies about Jesus in this, and so. Did you want to say anything about that?
Well, I do have a question about what you would think about this.
Uh-huh.
Do you think possibly that with these prophecies, there could be other candidates? Because I'm just saying, like, we have one particular candidate that we're engaging, and we're saying, look, we see all these prophecies engage this one candidate. Do you think it is possible that there could be potential other candidates that could fill these prophecies? And why or why not? Like, I'm just curious. What do you think about that?
Could I just tell you, because they did studies about this. Let me just tell you, okay? They did studies about this, and they did a probability, probabilities and all that kind of stuff. And they said, what is the probability of one person fulfilling 8 of these prophecies? Because what you got to consider is that some of these prophecies were written in Israel. Some were written 500 years before him. Some were written 700 years. Some were written 1,500 years before him. Some were written 1,000 years before him by different people in different places in different centuries. And when you take all of that into consideration and put it together, these prophecies about the Messiah, that the Jews were anticipating the Messiah, and say, how can one person fulfill all of these prophecies? Okay, they did a probability study. What is the probability that one person, one human being? Okay, so far you've got three very clear prophecies here. Number one, he'll be born of a virgin. Number two, he'll be born in Bethlehem. Number three, he'll be a ruler of Israel, and then that they will hit him on the face with a stick. All of those Jesus has done. And what's the likelihood of someone fulfilling 8 of these prophecies? You know what they said? They said what you have to do is you have to build a 2-foot wall around all of Texas. A 2-foot wall around all of Texas. Fill it all the way with quarters. Fill all of Texas with quarters, up to 2 feet. Then you take, you put on a blindfold, and you take 1 quarter. And now this is standing outside of Texas, okay? You're standing outside of Texas. You take 1 quarter and you paint it black on one side. And then you take that quarter and you throw it into Texas. Somewhere, maybe in Dallas, maybe Houston, somewhere. And then they airdrop you into Texas, and with a blindfold, you kneel down and you pick up exactly that quarter. That's the likelihood of one person fulfilling 8 of these prophecies. Never mind all the other prophecies that Jesus fulfilled. And so when you talk about in mathematical, that's why I was saying that it shows it's scientifically impossible for Jesus not to be the Messiah when you look at the prophecies that he fulfilled. So, what's the likelihood of another person? So sure, lots of people were born in Bethlehem. But were they hit in the face with a stick? Were they the ruler of Israel? Were they called the ruler, king of Israel? And do they have a divine nature that they came from eternity? And I know that you could, I don't know the Hebrew, so I'm not sure exactly how they translated this from the Hebrew, and I don't know Hebrew, when it says from ancient times, But anyway, this is one of the prophecies. So can we go to another prophecy?
Sure.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to another one. Now this is one of my favorite. Would like to go to this one because this is one of my favorite prophecies. And it, I got 2 favorite prophets. One of them is Isaiah, and the other is Zechariah. And I almost tend to like Zechariah more, just because I always tend to go with the underdog, and Zechariah has a smaller book, and so I kind of see him as the underdog compared to the Prince of Prophets, Isaiah. But of course, I can't take anything away from Isaiah. He is the Prince of
Prophets. I just have a quick question to ask you.
Sure.
So, coming from a background of being a Muslim, they didn't have the prophet Isaiah being mentioned in like the Quran or prophet Jeremiah. How did you feel about that when you embraced Christianity? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like a journalist, but I'm just curious.
Okay.
How was that for you when you see all these prophets that you've never even heard about?
Well, you know what? I to be honest, I could say that I was like most Muslims, which is I don't know that much about the Quran. And nobody does. Most Muslims don't even read the Quran. They got it as a good luck charm in the top of their bookshelf, and and even though I was very religious, I was very religious, and so I was very committed and convinced about Islam. But then once I came to Christianity, for me, it didn't. I mean, I knew about Abraham, I knew about Moses, I knew about Jesus, I knew about Muhammad, I knew about like Solomon and David. Those are the main ones that and Adam. About stuff like that, But then, to where when I came to Christianity, I didn't. It didn't take me a long time to just to let go of everything I knew in Islam. I didn't. In fact, I didn't even open a Quran for another 20 years. It was almost 20 years before I ever even touched another Quran. So I didn't have a real problem with it. It was like I understood that I was leaving Islam, and that I was now accepting Jesus, and so I in my mindset as an ex-Muslim, when you're a Muslim, it's a take it all or nothing. It's like It's like you have, if you accept Islam, it's all or nothing. And I understood that when I came to Christianity, that it's all or nothing. So I'm leaving Islam. I'm done with Islam. So, so I didn't really have an issue with that. But I tell you what, when I started learning about the prophecies, because this is what is unique about the Bible, is the prophecies. And God talks about this. He says, I will tell you the things to come. And when they come to pass, you will know that I am the Lord. So that this is one of the unique aspects about the Bible. No other book has this, that it has these very detailed prophecies that hundreds, thousands of years before Jesus was born, and they're fulfilled. And not just about the birth of Jesus the first time, but also about our time that we're living in. And so I don't know, did I answer your question?
I think you did. I think basically the answer, if I'm phrasing you correctly, is that you basically said when you became a Christian, you basically said, I accept all of this stuff in Christianity. I'm not denying any of it. I'm just taking all of it. And even these things I never heard about or knew about, I accept those too. Is that correct?
Sure. I mean, I knew that Christianity is the truth. I knew the Bible was the truth when Jesus came to me, and
how did that happen
so
for you? What is your testimony on that? How did you experience?
It's not like Muslims are common.
Did you have a vision? Like, what occurred? Oh, I think we got a little disconnected here. Hey, y'all. Guess we have to wait a little bit.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
Sorry about that. But I was watching. I was 15 years old. I was a very committed Muslim, but then I was watching. I was watching Oral Roberts. I was watching Oral Roberts on the night before Easter, 1978, or it was actually Easter morning. And as I was watching, the Holy Spirit fell on me. It was just like it was like a powerful wind. It was like the Holy Ghost came inside of me, and then Jesus was right there, and I just turned and said, "Jesus," and I didn't see him with my eyes, but I knew he was right there. It was like he was an old friend. It was like my old friend, like I knew him before, and it was like I don't even say I didn't change religions. It wasn't that I was a Muslim and I became a Christian. I was dead and I came to life. And this is a fulfillment also of a prophecy in the Old Testament, where it says, God says, in the last days, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. That's what he did. He just poured out his spirit on me. And, instantly I knew that Jesus was the Son of God. I knew that he died for me. I knew that he rose again. And that settled everything for me, and he came to live inside of me. And he's been with me ever since. It's 42 years ago, 43 years ago. Yesterday was my birthday, spiritual birthday. So that's kind of how it happened for me.
So just like instantaneous, like you saw this.
Yeah.
But so how did you see it? Like, that's interesting. And you were were you in the Palestinian territories? You were in Gaza, West Bank. I'm not sure where your folks are
I was
from.
in California.
Oh, you were in California. Okay, so you came to America.
Well, actually, I was born in America. And
you're born in America. I'm learning a lot about you. I just I wasn't sure if you grew up in. So you're kind of like me. You're like second generation here. Like you kind of grew up here in America and stuff like that.
Yeah, but then when I was 9, my parents divorced. And when my parents divorced, my dad took took us back to the Holy Land, to the West Bank, and I lived in his village for 3 years when
What's
I was
his
9,
village?
10, and 11. And so it's called Der de Buen. It's in the Bible. In the Bible, it's Ai. So you know, when Joshua came in, he took over Jericho first, and the second village they took was Ai. That's my village, is Ai. So
Interesting. Cool. Well, thank you.
yeah. So anyway, that was the. It was a miracle. It was a miraculous thing, and then I I am. It just says I was born in a dark cave in Hira. Anyway, all right. Okay, let's look at this. Can we look at this prophecy? This is one of my favorite prophecies right here. This was written by the prophet Zechariah. Okay, and listen to what it says. It says, "I told them." Okay, this is the Lord speaking. "I told them, if you think it best, give me my pay, but if not, keep it." So they paid me 30 pieces of silver.
I
And
know what you're doing. That's the blood. That was like the what is that called? That plot of blood. That
yes,
Judas bought. Is that what you're referring to?
yes,
What is that thing called? It's the oh my God.
the price of them, but it was the potter's field.
Potter's Field, but he bought that land with the 30 pieces of silver
Right.
used to sell out.
The
Yeah.
Lord said to me, yes, the handsome
Sorry, it's been
price,
a really long time. You know what I mean?
the handsome price at which they value.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry?
No, I was just saying I'm just
Yeah.
remembering
Okay.
all
The
this.
Lord said to me,
Mhm.
okay. Okay. The Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me. So I threw it to the potter at the house of the Lord. And here you have 3 prophecies. You have 3 prophecies here. This is written like 600 years before Jesus by the prophet Zechariah. And it says, give me the price. And look, the Lord very specifically says that they were selling the Lord, because he says, the handsome price at which they valued me. God is saying, this is how much they valued me. So it's a price of a person. He says, take it, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they value. So I took the 30 pieces of silver and threw it to the potter at the house of the Lord. Well, there's 3 prophecies here. Number 1, the 30 pieces of silver. You know that Judas went and he agreed with the Jews to sell Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. Well, then Judas felt guilty when he saw that they were going to kill Jesus. And he went to try to return the money. And so he said to them, here, take it back. And they says, no, keep it. And then it says that he threw the money into the house of the Lord, into the temple. And they took it. They said, we can't keep it because it's the price of blood. So they took it and they bought a field. And it's specifically the potters. And it's called the potter's field. And it says here, it says here that they would sell him for 30 pieces of silver, that they would throw the price into the temple, and that they would buy a field with it. Now, all 3 of those things happened, specifically to the potter's field. So, in this one prophecy written 600 years before Jesus by the prophet Zechariah, you have 3 very specific prophecies it's not like you have to guess. It's not like you have to guess. This is very detailed, very specific. It could have said 30 pieces of gold, or 30 pieces of copper, or 20 pieces of silver, or 10 pieces of silver. No, it said 30 pieces of silver. That was exactly how much they bargained for Judas to sell Jesus for. And it could have said, well, throw it in Jerusalem. No, it was very excruciatingly detailed. It's into the temple, into the house of the Lord. And then they could say, well, okay, so there's two prophecies, that's enough. No, it also goes into detail that with, why didn't they just take the money and put it in the temple treasury? No, they couldn't because it was blood money. And so why didn't they take it and give it to a beggar? Why didn't they take it and buy food for the poor? Why didn't they take silver and donate it, or one of them just keep it? No, it says exactly what would be done with it. And so you got these very detailed prophecies. Number one, he'll be born of a virgin. Number two, that they would hit him with a stick on his face. Number three, that he would be from eternity. Number four, he'd be born in Bethlehem. Number five, that they would sell him for 30 pieces of silver. Number six, that they would take that money and throw it into the temple. And number eight, that they would use that money to buy a potter's field. There's 8 prophecies right there. 8 very clear. And this is in the Bible, that the Jews have. And so when you start, that's when, the light needs to go on and you say, whoa, there's something going on here. So what do you think about that? I can't hear you, man.
I'm on mute. So again, I take the position I usually do on this conversation. I'm not denying the position. If we were to think about it, I'm going to grant you all of this. Let's say all these prophecies are true and they're all referring to big JC. I'm going to argue that that's all true.
Okay, can I just tell you one thing right there? I just want to say one thing. It says, throw it, the Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me. This is the Lord saying this. The Lord was speaking to the prophet, the handsome price at which they valued me. There is a person involved here and this person is the Lord who said this. Who is the Lord who was sold for 30 pieces? The handsome price at which they valued me.
Yeah, I hear that. It's a very interesting piece that you're looking at. It's pretty powerful. I think for a person who would not believe this situation is, let's say you take the Orthodox Jewish perspective on what the Messiah is. The Orthodox Jewish prophecy of the Messiah is not that the Messiah is just a regular person that delivers Israel. It doesn't have to be this kind of a very elaborate thing. It's not a supernatural person. It's a person who can create peace in the land. So that's usually the position they take. So these are powerful, but this would not persuade someone who's like an Orthodox Jew. They wouldn't be persuaded by this. If we're arguing that Jesus is the Messiah, I don't think that they would be convinced by these arguments. So I was going to say, all these are granted. I think if a person looks at this and kind of engages this, they might say, well, okay, these are all true. Well, what does that mean? We accept all this, but okay, so Jesus is all these things. Well, what is that? What is he? That might be the question of like, okay, he's a king.
He's the Messiah.
But they didn't we didn't have that particular word in all those prophecies that we used. It was, I'm just saying, I think this is inferred. The Messiah is inferred in this situation.
Okay, but if you would just allow, it's almost more powerful than that. It's almost more powerful. You know why? Because it says, the Lord said to me. So the Lord who was speaking to Zechariah said, throw to the potter the handsome price at which they valued me. This is the Lord God who came to Moses. Because there's only one Lord. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one Lord. The Lord of Moses and Abraham is talking to Zechariah. The Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me. So whoever this person was who was sold for 30 pieces, who was valued at 30 pieces of silver, this is the Lord, according to Zechariah. The easiest thought to have about this is that this is Jesus Christ, and he is the Lord of Moses. He's the Lord of Abraham, and he is the Messiah. That's the easiest thought you can get from this. Or he's the Lord, because it says here, the Lord said to me, the handsome price at which they valued me.
So another argument one might take, I'm not taking this position, I'm just saying this is what the skeptic might say. They might say, look, all the people are aware of these prophecies. And so the people who wrote the New Testament, who transcribed it, will say, look, we see the prophecy. We're going to make our protagonists fit this narrative. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that is a possibility that we need to be aware of. We have to put all the possibilities on the table and put the skepticism on the table. What would you say to a person who would throw that at you? And they say, look, yeah, of course it says that because these things were already written and the person was smart and they just took that and fit it into the text.
Okay. But what's the chance, though, bro? What's the chance? The Lord said to me, throw it to the potter, the handsome price at which they valued me.
Well, I totally hear that. I'm just saying
That's the Lord telling the.
But let's say if I
Okay.
took it as like I'm a Jewish skeptic of Christianity, and I say I'm a Jewish person and I'm skeptical of Christianity. I don't believe Christianity is real. So I believe that the Tanakh is real, but I don't believe the New Testament is real. So I say, look, yeah, this text is true. The Lord is saying this. But the people who wrote the New Testament are not legitimate. They're not real. And what they did was they were some real Jewish, they were some kind of Jewish heretic that knew the Jewish teaching, and they took their person that they believed in and they threw this prophecy through the text. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like,
Sure,
what
sure.
would you say in that kind of position?
You know what I'd say? um, I would say, this person, Matthew, who wrote this, he paid for it with his life. He was killed for this. He paid with his life for these words. Peter, who is the writer of Mark, he paid with his life. He was crucified upside down for these words. John, who wrote, he was tortured. They threw him in a vat of oil, boiling oil, but he didn't die. So they ended up just putting him on the Isle of Patmos. But these guys, 11 of the followers of Jesus, were killed. They were killed for their belief in this. That's what I would tell those persons. I'd like to show you another prophecy, okay? Okay? This is from King David. Okay? Let me just show you this. Sure. This is from King David, and this one is very special because when Jesus was on the cross, he said these words. Okay, when Jesus was on the cross, he said these words, which is from Psalm 22 by King David, 1,000 years before Jesus was born. 1,000 years before Jesus was born, King David wrote this. And it's, my God, why have you forsaken me? When he was on the cross, Jesus said this. And back then, and this is what I've heard, maybe it's wrong, I don't know, that back then they didn't used to have Psalm 22, Psalm 23, Psalm 24, and like that. The way you identified a psalm is by saying the first line of it. And that what Jesus was saying when he said that was, go read Psalm 22. And let's look at some of the things that are in Psalm 22. And all who see me mock me. They hurl insults at me, shaking their heads. He trusts in the Lord, they say. Let the Lord rescue him. Let him deliver him, since he delights in him. Yet you made me to trust at my mother's breast. From birth I was cast on you. Okay, and then this is where it's really amazing. It says, I am poured out like water. All my bones are out of joint. My heart has turned to wax and is melted within me. My mouth is dried up like a potsherd. My tongue, my mouth. You lay me in the dust of death. Dogs have surrounded me. A pack of villains encircles me. They pierce my hands and my feet. They divide my clothes among them and cast lots for my garment. They all gambled for Jesus' clothes, and this is in all four of the Gospels. But they pierced my hands and my feet. This was 1,000 years before Jesus was born. And I know if you're going to go with what Masoretic text says, which was written 1,000 years ago, they changed it to a lion at my hands and my feet. And this was generally what, if you look in the Jewish book, that's what it says. But we have older documents than the Masoretic text. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were 1,000 years, more than 1,000 years before the Masoretic text. And the Dead Sea Scrolls say, they pierce my hands and my feet.
Well, that's very powerful. I do have a question though.
Okay.
What would you say? So, going back to that point about the skeptic, again, this is not my position. I'm just saying as a counterpoint, because like I don't know about the absolute understanding. The skeptic might argue and say, well, okay, I grant you all this stuff looks like it fits, but it's very easy to read a book and then make your own fan fiction and just say, well, I saw all this stuff and now I'm just going to copy and paste it. And my hero is going to be the hero because they fit all these things that were in the text before. That doesn't mean that they really happened, because they only exist within the text. We can't actually do the Romans corroborate this, like the 30 pieces of silver. Do the Jewish texts corroborate this? Does the Talmud, the Jerusalem Talmud support this? So they would say, look, that's cool that you believe all this stuff, but you don't really have anything besides your text that verifies it. Even your people, the Israelites don't say that Matthew existed or John existed. The Jewish community doesn't even say that they even have any existence. So the only people that say this existed is the New Testament. I'm not saying this is true. I'm just saying that's a pretty intense skeptical attack against this particular prophecy. How would you engage that if someone said that to you? They'd be like, yeah, you said that he died, but I don't see anyone else who says that. Only New Testament says that. Well, and the New Testament doesn't really engage. I think it's only one apostle that passes away. This is a long time. My memory's not perfect, but one apostle is mentioned that is executed, and then the rest are in Christian doctrine. Is that fair? Is that true, or am I off? Because I don't think Matthew is mentioned. I don't think because they said Matthew, they went to different places, and then basically the Christian texts of like the Christian forefathers, like Polycarp and all those kind of protagonists say that. Am I correct or am I off?
Well, you know, uh, you asked a bunch of different things, but there's
Sorry,
one.
I know that was a lot of stuff. I'm sorry, but yeah.
But there's one thing I want. That only the Christian books say this. Well, that's not true. That's not true. In fact, the most respected Jewish historian from that era was Josephus.
Right. He doesn't mention any of those apostles. He doesn't mention Matthew, Peter, Luke. He mentions Jesus, but none of those. I'm saying the apostles are not corroborated. Just
Okay.
he said
But
that
that's going back to a question that you asked before. You asked about the apostle. I'm still on the crucifixion.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You said that the crucifixion that only the Christian books say this, but that's not true. Josephus mentioned it.
The skeptics. The thing is, some people believe that that's a forgery in Josephus. I'm just saying that is what they say. That's a forgery that's there. They said it doesn't actually fit the rest in there. They said the Christians had control of the text, and they. Oops.
Sorry, my internet sucks.
You're totally fine. I'm quite aware of what you're talking about. You're talking about antiquities, and I've read that passage. So I'm not. First of all, I'm just letting you know I'm not disagreeing with you here. I'm just saying what a counterpoint would be to this situation. Yeah, the skeptic will say, "Well, guess what? That's a forgery." Tacitus, they're all very weak. All the alternative sources are extremely weak at best. The mythicist, and there's also a mythicist position that believes that he never existed at all. And they said, here's this whole list of things that, they say it's just dying and rising gods, all that kind of stuff. So I'm just saying, like, with that particular passage, what they usually say is, look, he didn't witness the crucifixion. He basically was saying, there's some guy named Jesus and Christians believe this. So, but there's not, they would say it's not a strong attestation. But I accept that there's some mentioning there, but it's that passage that's in Antiquities is not a very strong corroboration.
Well, there's usually for like you could say it's not very strong, but it's there, and usually for ancient history. Now, you see, I'm not an expert on here, and I got to be careful. But that I've heard this, and that for ancient history. Now we're talking now about things over 1,000 years old. That for it to be documented from one source is a indication that something happened. But the crucifixion is in many sources. First of all, the 4 Gospels, then the other books, and then you have the Josephus. You do have and there's others, and I could dig them up for you right now if you want, because I have it, because I did a video on this a few weeks ago. The extra biblical evidence for the crucifixion, and so the evidence is the evidence is there in many sources. There's 12 sources that talk about the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It is a historical fact. The most provable fact in history, ancient history, is the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. It's not a something that is just one person said it. It is a provable fact. And about what you said about the apostles, I didn't really understand what you were saying about the apostles, but you know what? We have sources out. The deaths of the apostles are not all recorded in the Bible. They are recorded in church history by the church fathers, and so they're the ones who recorded what happened to them. This one went here and died. Mark went here, and Thomas went to India. Mark went to Egypt. Matthias was in Syria. Philip, I think, was in Cyprus, and they were all killed. And they were all killed. They were killed. You know what they were killed for? It's a little bit different than, for instance, that many Muslims die for their beliefs. Many Muslims die for their beliefs, but the disciples did not die for their beliefs. They died for something they saw. Something they saw with their eyes. The strongest testimony in court is eyewitness testimony. These guys were eyewitnesses to Jesus Christ, to his miracles, to his death, and to his resurrection. That he died and came back to life. And so they died for their testimony of their resurrection, and not one of them backed down. Not one of them backed down to say, I didn't see the resurrected Christ. They all died believing and attesting to the fact that they saw Jesus Christ rise from the dead after he rose from the dead. And so here you got the issue of the resurrection. And you see, all of the things that Jesus said, all of the things that Jesus did, is the fact that he's the Son of God is validated by the fact that he rose from the dead. Excuse me, I got some. Throw them. Excuse me a second. What are you doing, buddy? What are you doing, buddy? Where's your friend? Sorry, man. The dogs came in. I had to feed them. So, but you know what you got? These, you know, and sure, these other books are not the scriptures, but they're true books. You know.
I'm not denying that. Again, I'm not denying.
You know, and you know, like for me. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So anyway, I think when you look at these things, 30 pieces of silver. Number one, born of a virgin. Number two, that born in Bethlehem. This is what your book says. Born in Bethlehem. That they would hit his face with a stick, which they did. That they would pierce his hands and his feet. That they would sell him for 30 pieces of silver. That they would take 30 pieces and throw it into the temple. That they would take that money and buy a potter's field with it. That he would that they would gamble for his clothes. That they would gamble for his clothes. All of these things written 1,000, 700, 500 years by different people on different continents. And says, and Messiah will be cut off, but not for himself. Yeah, let me just show you that prophecy, okay? Just because this is an amazing prophecy about this is an amazing prophecy by the prophet Daniel, the one who came to Mary and came to Zechariah. He's the one who gave this prophecy to Daniel. And listen to what he says. Listen to what he says. And this is dude, you really got to strain. You got to strain real hard to not see the light when you hear this. Listen to what Daniel says. It says, okay. It says, no and okay, here, it's from here. Okay. Know and understand this. From the time the word goes out to rebuild and restore Jerusalem, because Jerusalem was destroyed at this time, until the anointed one. The anointed one is Messiah in Hebrew. Messiah Najib, meaning Messiah the King. Know and understand, from the time that the word goes forth to restore Jerusalem until the Messiah. Sevens. That means 7-year periods, or 49 years, and 62 sevens. Now, he was speaking to Daniel when Daniel was in Babylon at the time of the Babylonian captivity. Okay, and but listen to what else he says. Okay, it meaning Jerusalem will be rebuilt with streets and a trench, but in times of trouble. After the 62 sevens, after this 49 period, listen to what Daniel says. The Messiah, the anointed one or Messiah, will be put to death and will have nothing. The Messiah will be put to death. This is Daniel. But listen what else. And the people of the rule will come and destroy the city and the sanctuary. You know what's interesting about this is that the ruler of the people who will come will destroy the city and the sanctuary being the temple. So here it's saying that the Messiah will be cut off, he'll be killed, then the city will be destroyed and the temple will be destroyed. And this is all, this is Gabriel talking to Daniel. Well, Jesus died in 32 AD. 30 years later, Titus came and destroyed the city and the temple. This prophecy in Daniel tells you exactly, and it's when this would happen. And it tells you the three important things. Number one, the Messiah will die, will be, and not just die, he'll be put to death, cut up, which I believe means be killed or cut off. And then the ruler will destroy the city, Jerusalem will be destroyed, and the temple will be destroyed. This is in Daniel chapter 9. So you have that he will be born of a virgin. You'll have that he was born in Bethlehem, that they're going to hit him on the face with a stick, that they're going to pierce his hands and his feet, that they're going to sell him for 30 pieces of silver, they're going to throw it into the temple, that they're going to buy a potter's field with it, and that he will be put to death. And after he's put to death, they will destroy Jerusalem and the temple. All of this happened. All of this was predicted in the Jewish books. And there's one more thing I want to, and I know that this is something that one thing I know you know this, but I believe, and I know you know this, and that's the most famous prophecy about Jesus in the Old Testament, of sorts. That's the prophet Isaiah chapter 53. Okay. Look what it says. He was despised and rejected by mankind, a man of suffering, familiar with pain, like one from whom people hide their faces. He was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him. This is Isaiah speaking now. He was pierced. Again, he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. And listen to this, by his wounds we are healed. And I know sometimes the Jews say that this is about Israel, but this is talking about a person. It says, by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray, turned to his own way, but the Lord laid on him the iniquity of us all. And then look what it says here. He was assigned a grave with the wicked and with the rich in his death. Remember who buried him? Joseph of Arimathea, a rich man's grave. And they went and put a stone on that grave, and they sealed, the Roman Empire sealed it. And 3 days later, that grave was empty. And, there's one other thing here that I wanted to show you that, you see this right here. This is so powerful. He poured out his life unto death and was numbered with the transgressors. When he was crucified, he had one thief on his right and a murderer on his left. He was numbered with the transgressors. This is Isaiah 53, 700 years before Jesus was born. See, when you take all of these prophecies, that were very clearly believed, and you could say the Bethlehem prophecy wasn't, but when they asked the Jews, where's the Messiah supposed to be born? They said he was supposed to be born in Bethlehem. They knew he was supposed to be born in Bethlehem from that prophecy. And so when you take all of this and you put it all together and you say, how can one man fulfill all this? How could one man fulfill all this? Then when you try to figure out the probabilities, I told you about the Texas thing for 8 prophecies, but we've gone in more than that, way more than that. And there are hundreds more. And when you take all of that into account, the probability of one man fulfilling all of this, there are not enough atoms in the universe. There are not enough atoms in the universe to describe the probabilities of one man fulfilling all of these prophecies that were written 700 years, 600 years before, 1,000 years before, 2,000 years before. The probability is beyond human reason. It is in the realm of miracles. And yet Jesus fulfilled these prophecies. He is your Messiah. He is your Messiah. And I urge you to accept him. He is real. I'm an ex-Muslim, and I came to know your Messiah. I know these things are true. I left Islam because I met your Messiah. It says he came for the Jews first, and the Greek as well. I urge you, brother, you can make excuses for all of this. The easier thing is to say, you know what? This is all true. And believe it. It was fulfilled. Jesus said, I've come to fulfill the law and the prophets. He fulfilled. He says, you look at the scriptures thinking you have eternal life in them, but they are written about me. Jesus said that. What would keep you from accepting Jesus into your heart right now, Issa? Why won't you accept your Messiah right now?
Well, that's pretty intense. I wasn't expecting this to be a part of the conversation.
Dude.
I do think there is difficulty on several points here that we didn't really address. Like, for example, we're assuming a lot here. I'm not saying it's not true. First of all, we're assuming these apostles existed. Like, we do not have corroborating evidence on any of them. Only the New Testament, including the Apostle Paul. There is no alternative source that shows that he existed. I've studied this extensively. Like, there isn't, which is fine. Like, to me, Christianity is about faith. It's not about science. Like,
I think you're wrong. You're wrong.
I'm wrong.
Yes, you're wrong.
Why is that?
Christianity is not just about faith. It is about faith, but there is a historic event. God entered into history. God entered into history. God's incarnation is a historic event that happened. It's
I do
not,
think we have
it's not,
difficulty though. I mean,
I'm sorry.
honestly speaking, like again, I don't think we have evidence about these it's only in Christian history. We don't have it in secular. It's not in Rome. It's not in the census of Rome. We don't. The Jewish people don't claim these people. They don't say Matthew existed. Luke, John, Peter, Paul. Paul makes a lot of claims. He says that he's a student of Gamaliel. Gamaliel doesn't claim him as a student. We know they say there's evidence for Gamaliel existing because there's multiple sources that say he exists.
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty with this, and I'm not saying you're wrong, again, I'm just saying historically, I think there's difficulty using a historical methodology. I'm fine with faith. This is a reason why I would say with faith, I can see that, but through history, I don't see it because I'm like, if he existed, if this is all true, where are the Jewish sources that claim that these people existed? Where's the genealogy of Matthew? What's his bloodline? Where does he fit? Because the Israelites don't say it doesn't exist in the Talmud. You know, Jesus might be someone that exists, but none of these people. Yeah, that it's saying quoting one rabbi is not really going to help you, bruh. Like you're going to have to do better than that. You're going to have to go and show multiple attestations of this situation. I don't believe the historical narrative works here. Personally, I don't see that. And even if we look at Yohanan ibn Zakkai, it's not going to show everything that I'm saying. Like that question is still going to arise. And that's the thing when I keep hearing history, I'm like, I understand soli fide, but I don't understand history. I don't understand how this even works in this situation because, like, again, how about if this happened, hypothetically? I'm not saying it's true. How about if you have some dude who comes up and a bunch of people say they know Jewish sources, they quote all the Jewish sources, and they fit all the prophecies into their story. It's like there's an arrow and then drawing a circle around the arrow and saying, look, the arrow landed in my bullseye. You know, I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that's what a skeptic would say. They would be like, okay, how impressive is that? Like, yeah, of course. You're telling the story. You're in control of the narrative. You put the arrow, you see the arrow, and you're just drawing the circle where the arrow is. Why would I believe you?
Yeah.
Can you show me?
He wasn't killed. If Matthew didn't die for what he believed in, that gives me some pause to say, if he was willing to die for that, if you look at Luke, for instance, now Luke is, if you look at Luke and the Gospel of Luke, in Luke chapter 3, verse 1, it's talking about when the word of the Lord came to John the Baptist. When the word of the Lord came to John the Baptist, it says, in the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar. It wasn't like in the first year. It wasn't like just during the time of Tiberius. No, it was specific. In the 15th year of Tiberius Caesar. If you'll just let me pull that up. I just want to pull it up really quickly, okay? Just because I want to show you. I just want to show you how scientifically accurate the New Testament is. Because look at this. Look. In the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. Okay, so there's one level of telling you when this event happened. Then it says, when Pontius Pilate was governor of Judea. So there's another. It's like saying when Joe Biden was president and when a president of the United States in the first year of Joe Biden, when Newsom was governor of California. Okay, but there's more. When Herod was tetrarch of Galilee, Philip was tetrarch of Iturea, and Trachonitis and Lysanias tetrarch of Abilene. And more details during the high priesthood of Annas and Caiaphas. How many levels of validation, historical and geographical verification? Historic and geographical. Have you ever heard of Iturea? Have you ever heard of Iturea? Have you ever heard of a tetrarch? Have you ever heard of Abilene? Have you ever heard of Licinius? Yet he brought all of this detail to show, this is when the word of the Lord came to John, the son of Zechariah. He brought all of this historic and geographical detail, and all of these have been verified. We can pinpoint when this was based on all of this information. It's like 7 layers of validation here, 7 layers of verification, 7 layers of verification. And if it's that accurate about this, the word of the Lord came to John, how much more accurate is it about the real important stuff, like the crucifixion and the resurrection?
So I would ask a question about this, and being very sincere here. So again, dealing with things like fan fiction, I'm just saying as a thing that can exist. There are stories like Spider-Man and Batman and like comic books and stuff like that that can take real historical evidence and then put their fictitious character into the historical story. So the historical thing could be really clean and clear. And, you know, maybe they're creating realism for their character. And they say, okay, here's Spider-Man. He's in New York. This is the governor of New York. And all the characters are realistic and real, except Spider-Man and the like reptile character and whatever the things, you know, Green Goblin and all those characters that exist. What like one could say that people have done that. They've written very, very good historical, like they write a very good historical background to their fictitious narrative. Not saying it's fictitious. Again, it's not. I'm just trying to say, like, thinking about this, that doesn't necessarily prove this situation. Again, this is my problem. I don't think history is a good argument for faith, because anybody can, again, they can draw the circle around the arrow anywhere. And they could just say, okay, yeah, this person was a good historian. They knew history. That doesn't mean that the character that they put in so it's like a person is selling vacuums. They sell 9 vacuums. They're all clean and clear. The 10th vacuum, they say, trust me, this vacuum is real and it's legitimate. You know, it's in the box, but I sold you 9 good vacuums. So the 10th vacuum's got to be legit too. So all 10 vacuums should be legit, right? Because the first 9 were legit. I think that's a logical fallacy. This is just, I don't know. I'm not persuaded by history. Like I come to the Cross and the Crescent and I listen and I'm like, yeah, I don't believe in the historical narrative. I mean, like there's so many, I could throw a wrench in a lot of places with it. I don't think it fits. But through faith, I think that's fine. Again, like if you have this faith and you have this,
then come by faith.
To that.
Well, then come by faith. If you want to throw all the history away, throw it away. I don't care. I want you to come by faith to Jesus Christ, man, because that's the important thing. Listen, buddy, you know what? All of these, it's your God, it's your book. You're Jewish. This is your book. You know, I came to believe in you. You know, because and your book is a miracle. It is a miracle. It is a miracle, and it's not all. Yeah, and you see, there's this. The Bible says, Jesus says, "You will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." And so, you guys, there was a special blessing. It came to you first, and then the Jews, the majority, not all, because all of the apostles were Jewish. Paul was Jewish. Mary was Jewish. All of the first church was Jewish. So not all of them rejected, but many did. And so then the apostle Paul said, now God is giving it to the Gentiles. But then God says in Isaiah, he says, I'm going to talk to you, Jews. He says, I'm going to talk to you, Jews. And I'm talking to you like this, a fulfillment of Isaiah. I'm a fulfillment of Isaiah's prophecy to you, bro. Because God said to you, I'm going to talk to you through a people from strange tongue who have no nation. God says he's going to do this for the Jews because they weren't listening. You weren't listening when Jesus came. You weren't listening when all this stuff happened. And he says, I'm going to talk to you through strange tongue. And I'm going, a people who is not a people. The Palestinians, we don't have a country, we don't have a land. And so God's talking to you through a Palestinian right now, ex-Muslim, who was trained to hate Jews, but who loves Jews because of your Messiah, who changed my life. And I'm telling you, bro, your Messiah is the Son of God. He's real, and I beg of you, accept him. And if you could do one thing, I tell you, talking to you guys, talking to the Muslims. But you know what?
I think I'm a little bit different because I can honor the position
History.
that you have.
I'm not a historian.
I'm not saying you're heretic. I'm not saying anything like that. I don't take that position, and I don't even say that your position is false. I've never even taken that position. I'm just saying the only thing I've ever even said here is just I'm like, I don't know if I buy the historical narrative, but I think, one thing that I've seen that a lot of Christians have is kindness and love and compassion. And I think that's a far better strategy in proselytization than history.
Okay.
I don't think history is a good place to go through.
Okay.
It's just my opinion.
Then with all my kindness and love and gentleness, I'm begging you.
Well, I appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much. I feel honored.
Okay, do this. Just do this. Just if you said you by faith, okay? Would you just say Jesus if this is true? You know why? You know why, bro? Because there's a prophecy about what's going to happen to you. Let me show you the prophecy about what's going to happen to you. Okay? I want to show you what's going to happen to you, your people, your Jews. So, Digny, I want to talk to you in Arabic because I could say a lot more things in Arabic. And
أنا لا أعرف. لا أتكلم اللغة العربية.
العربي عشان أوريك وجعت راسي بس. Now I want to see you. Okay, I want to show you what it says about you guys, because you guys, okay, right here it says, I will pour out on the house of David and the inhabitants of Jerusalem a spirit of grace and supplication. Listen to this, bro. They will, that's you. This is you right here. They will look on me, the one they have pierced, and mourn for him as one mourns for an only child, and grieve bitterly for him as one grieves for a firstborn son. Okay? You're going to see him. And then it says, and then God's going to pour out his spirit on you and give you life. You're all of this stuff you have. This says God's going to pour out his spirit on you. And you see, because Jerusalem rejected Jesus when he first came, he said to them, "Oh, Jerusalem, who stones the prophets, how often I wanted to gather you like a hen, but you would not." He says, "From now on, you will not see me again until you say, 'Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.'" And he's going to, this next time, it's like the story of Joseph. You know what happened with Egypt, right? Looking for food. And when they went, they didn't recognize Joseph, right? You know the story?
You're talking
that
about,
story?
You're talking about Joseph from the Tanakh. You're talking about in Bereshit or Genesis. You're talking about the story where I actually read the entire story recently, and I read the Quranic story. I read both the biblical and next to each other. It's an interesting. You should try that out and see the difference. That's an interesting thematic read if you read the story of Joseph in the Quran versus the Tanakh. It's an interesting experience.
But I want to tell you one
story. Sure.
When his
they didn't recognize him. They didn't recognize him. Yeah.
They didn't recognize him. But the second time they went, he revealed himself to them. They didn't recognize him the first time, but the second time they did recognize him. It's a picture of Jesus that most of the Jews did not recognize him when he first came. But this second time, he's going to open their eyes and they are going to recognize him. That's why I ask you, ask Jesus, are you really the Messiah? Are you the awaited Messiah? Would you just ask and say, Lord, could you? If you are, what do you got to lose? If he's not, nothing's going to happen. Would you do that?
I'll honor your request.
Okay, do it right now. Honor me right now. I'm a Palestinian. You guys took our land. You took our. I'm joking. I'm
But
joking.
it's a little more complex. I mean, you have also Caliph Abdul Malik, who came and took over the land too. I mean, several generations before and under the what was it, the Umayyad dynasty? Like, it's very complex. It's just complex story. I know. I'm playing too. I'm
trying to manipulate you. So
I don't know if you ever. There's a crazy show called Rami, and they talk about there's all like these weird political things between Arabs and Jews. Rami's an Egyptian guy, and he lives a certain kind of life. I think your teaching would be Rami would really benefit from it. You need to go see Rami.
Would you do it? Would you say, Jesus, if you are the Messiah, show me? What do you got to lose? If he's not, he's not.
I mean, I hear that. I understand that.
Would you do it?
I wouldn't say I wouldn't.
Say it. Say it.
I mean, it's a little uncomfortable here. Like, I think I'm okay right now. Not doing it right here.
You're the Messiah, show me. It's the most important thing in your life. Would you do it? Come on.
I would definitely do it in private. I would never go like in public and do it. I think, you
said you got to do it in public.
I don't have vanity in faith. I don't think I would come up and say, "Look at me, oh Lord, please."
No.
I'd be very in private.
No. Say, Lord, I want to see you. Show me if you're the Messiah. Just say that to him. Okay.
Oh, I could say that in private. I don't really want to say that in public. I'm okay.
Would you say it in private right now? Just say it between you and the Lord right now. Just say it in your heart. Just say, Lord, if you're the Messiah, show me. Just do it in your heart right now. You don't have to do it out loud. Just do it with you and him. Okay? Because that's what he did for me. That's what he did for me.
That's powerful. And I mean, I totally respect and honor your faith. I think it's super important. That's definitely where I come from. I think I validate that. I would never like say you're wrong and false for that. Like, that's number one for me. That's important,
Girl. Well, dude, I got to go deliver pizzas. And so
this is fun. This is an adventure.
It's been great.
Well, thank you for sharing that one. There was one prophecy that was really interesting. The 30 coins. That's an interesting one. So that's a new one to add to the collection. I've seen a lot of them, but that was one I hadn't heard yet. So
yeah. Well, it's great. It's great talking to you, bro.
Pleasure. It's an honor.
Make sure and say, if you're the Messiah, show me. Make sure and do that. He came for you first. Okay? And us as well. Okay? He loves you. We love you.
Thank you.
You're a great guy. And everybody, thank you for being with us and watching this. I love talking about prophecy. It's my favorite thing in the world. And I love talking about Jesus. So
thank you for sharing your faith with me. I appreciate that. Thank
you for being on with me and for taking the time to do this. So I think I'm going to have some good pizza sales today. So
as they say in Hebrew, Besrat Hashem, God willing.
All right. God bless you, brothers. Everybody else, say, Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. He loves you. I love you. Have a great day. The Lord be with you. Salam, shalom.